Hello and welcome to La Rosa Reads. I'm Denise La Rosa, and today I am answering the question, did I stick to my TBRs? Let's talk books. Okay, you guys, this was my first time ever creating TBRs for myself, monthly TBRs, and I want to reflect upon the experience to see, did I stick to those TBRs? If so, why? If not, why not? And should I continue monthly TBR videos for this channel next year? So I created some graphics and am needing your help in finding out how did I do with these monthly TBRs and then unpack it a little bit and see what the future holds. So let's start with January of 2022. Hold up. I need to make this clear. I need to clarify something for everyone. I am strictly only taking a look at the books that were on my TBR that I ended up reading for that month. So this does not include all of the mood reads that were added on to the month by month, because that's not the purpose. I have read, as of today, as I'm recording this video, I've read over 80 books, and my goal is to read 60 for the year. So you will notice a clear discrepancy in numbers. The books that were on my TBRs that I ended up reading do not account for all of the reading that I did this year. I just want to answer this question, did I stick to my TBRs? And so I don't need to think about or worry about or share with all of you all of the other reading that I did month by month. Okay, let's take a look at the month of January 2022. So on my TBR, I had The Wedding Party, The Last Thing He Told Me, The Personal Librarian, and Liberty. Out of those 4 books that were on my TBR, I only ended up reading Liberty, 1 book out of the 4. Fast forward to February, and I had 8 books on my TBR. Those books were The Perfect Find, Carry On, The Little Devil in America, The Age of Phyllis, My Monticello, African Americans in Sewickley, Razorblade Tears, and Madam. So I definitely increased the list of books on my TBR from 4 to 8. I literally doubled it. And out of those 8, I ended up reading half of them: The Perfect Find, The Age of Phyllis, My Monticello, and African Americans in Sewickley. Then there was my birthday month where I was really on a roll. So I upped the ante and added 11 books to my TBR. And those books were A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, Project Hail Mary, How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House, Pony, The Personal Librarian, The Book of Form and Emptiness, Lifting as We Climb, Call Us What We Carry, Appleseed, Everyone Knows Your Mother's a Witch, and Ophi's Ghost. And I ended up reading 5 of those books, a little less, about 49% of the books that were on my TBR. I read The Personal Librarian, Call Us What We Carry, Pony, How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House, and Project Hail Mary. In the month of April, I decided to have 10 books on my TBR. Those books were I Hope This Finds You Well, Bless the Daughter Raised by a Voice in Her Head, The Proposal, The Story of More, Passing, The Prince and the Pauper, The Good Earth, The Stranger in the Lifeboat, Better Together, and Black Cake. And as you can see, I only ended up reading 3 of those books. We have I Hope This Finds You Well, The Proposal, and Better Together. And then there was May, such a lovely month of reading. I had 7 books on my TBR. Those books were When Stars Are Scattered, Orwell's Roses, Unprotected, Finlay Donovan is Killing It, Under a White Sky, The Lion in the Living Room, and Somebody's Daughter. I ended up reading 3 of those books, 3 out of the 7. I read When Stars Are Scattered, Unprotected, and Finlay Donovan is Killing It. Yay! The Amazon truck has arrived in our driveway. I think some more books are arriving, but I digress. Back to the June TBR. I upped the ante yet again, and this time I had 10 books on my TBR, and they were, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. The Wedding Party, The Good Earth, Stranger in the Lifeboat, Eleanor in the Village, Four Aunties and a Wedding, Book Lovers, Must Love Books, The Shadow in the Glass, and Shine Bright. And your girl only ended up reading 3 of those books that were on her TBR, and those books were Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, Book Lovers, Shine Bright. Are you there, TBR? It's me, Denise, and I haven't been listening to you. In July, I added the following books to my TBR: Pride and Prejudice, Beautiful Country, Parable of the Talents, Yinka, Where is Your Husband, Passing, and Verity. I ended up reading Pride and Prejudice, Yinka, Where's Your Husband, and I finally read Passing. Moving along to August, I had 8 books on my TBR. Those books were Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, Beautiful Country, The Blues Walked In, Four Aunties and a Wedding, Wahala, A Princess Found, Miss Pearlie's Girls, and Bake It Till You Bake It. My TBR fared pretty well. I ended up reading 5 of the books. I read Tomorrow Times 3, Beautiful Country, The Blues Walked In, Four Aunties. Wait, hold up. I didn't read Four Aunties and a Wedding. I read Dial A for Aunties, so let's fix that. Bake It Till You Bake It was the 4th book I read in that month. So yeah, I was giving myself kudos for Four Aunties and a Wedding, but I have yet to read that book. Oh, back to school vibes in September had me putting 2, 4, 6, 8 books on my TBR. Those books were Tales from the Cafe, The Wedding Party, again, Beartown, Verity, My Killer Vacation, The Training School for Negro Girls, The Guncle, and Acts of Violet. Your girl ended up reading My Killer Vacation, Tales from the Cafe, Acts of Violet, and Verity. 2 more months to go, y'all, and in October, I was trying to get all the spooky feels going and some other randoms, including A Raisin in the Sun, The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, Garvey in the Dark, Ever Dark, Four Aunties and a Wedding, again, The Thursday Murder Club, Ophi's Ghost, Ocean State, Parable of the Talents, The Illness Lesson, and You're Invited. One book that was invited that I don't have here is Razorblade Tears. Razorblade Tears was on my TBR, y'all. So I ended up reading Razorblade Tears, which you don't see on this little slideshow, but I read it. I also read A Raisin in the Sun. I read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, Ophi's Ghost, and You're Invited. And we have November, nonfiction November, and all the books, except for one, were nonfiction reads that I had placed on my TBR. I placed on my TBR the following books: This Is What It Sounds Like, American Sirens, Eleanor in the Village, There She Was, The Lion in the Living Room, A Princess Found, The Palace Papers, and Friday Black. Did I do Muppets in Moscow, y'all? Making these little graphics, you guys, I have a few errors, but that's okay because I did this on Thanksgiving Day and I was grubbing on some pumpkin pie with extra whipped cream and watching a lovely movie. That was a Christmas holiday movie, watching Frosty the Snowman. And so, needless to say, I was multitasking and it shows. But I feel like I had Muppets in Moscow on here. So we're gonna say that I had Muppets of Moscow on my nonfiction November TBR because I feel like I did. So with that being said, I ended up reading This Is What It Sounds Like, A Princess Found, The Lion in the Living Room, and Muppets in Moscow. All right, Grace for the Journey, Progress Over Perfection. I would like to focus on the books that made the most frequent appearances. So as you will see on this slide, I have quite a few books that made multiple appearances, including 2 that were the most frequent visitors to my TBR, The Wedding Party and Four Aunties and a Wedding. And we have to remove the circle. I did not read Four Aunties and a Wedding. I read Dial A for Aunties, which is the prequel to Four Aunties and a Wedding. So out of all these books that made frequent appearances, I did end up reading 6 of them. I still have 6 remaining that have yet to be read by La Rosa. Those books are For Aunties in a Wedding, The Good Earth, The Wedding Party, The Stranger in the Lifeboat, Eleanor in the Village, and Parable of the Talents. So, yeah, there you have it. That is 11 months summed up into this video of my TBR journey. So, here's the first question. What happened? How did I end up not reading all the books on my TBR? Well, I think the first challenge was book club selections. As many of you frequent visitors to La Rosa Reads know, I love me some book clubs, and oftentimes those books are not selected until like a week or 2 into that month. So I set my TBRs up like the month prior. So when I'm doing these videos, I'm not able to share with you those book club selections. And so I oftentimes will get distracted by those and end up reading those books instead of the books that were on my TBR. Also, it has become very apparent to me that I am a mood reader. I will have those books on my shelves, and then I finish a book and I'm walking over to the shelf that has all of my TBR books in it or on it. And I'm like, oh, I am not feeling any of those, but I am feeling that one way over there across the room. So it happens, and apparently it happened a lot. Third, there were some months, y'all, where I had way too many books on my TBR, like 11 books on my TBR. On average, I read about 7 to 8 books a month. And so I don't know what I was thinking. I just think it's one of those things like when you eat and like your eyes are bigger than your appetite, or eyes are bigger than your stomach, whatever that saying is. I feel that way about books. I definitely see all the books and want to put all of them on my TBR, but it's very unrealistic that I will actually get to those reads. And then there are reading initiatives that maybe I wasn't privy to prior to them launching in a particular month, and so that wasn't reflected in my TBR. And then I got excited and wanted to be a part of those things and had to scramble and add some more books to my reading collection for the month. And finally, you guys, purchases. I mean, I had books on my TBR, then I would go to a bookstore and see some amazing books. And of course, like as soon as I bought them, I wanted to read them right then. And that prevented me from reading books that I had on my shelves for a while or had on my TBR. And I can't help it, I'm a little impulsive. So I have 3 next steps. What is all of this telling me? You know, what is it about this TBR journey that makes me think I need some next steps? What am I learning from this experience? Well, first, I definitely have to do something different than your standard classic TBR videos and TBR planning. It is really clear to me that it's not working as well as I thought it would. And I don't want that to be a waste of my time by selecting a bunch of books that I end up not reading. That can be frustrating, disappointing, and false advertising here on La Rosa Reads. I'm not going to be perfect, and I think BookTube watchers, viewers appreciate that your TBR may not match your wrap-ups, and that's fine, but I also don't want to waste my time with these TBRs if I'm not going to actually read the books. So I have 3 plans to change up my TBR journey. The first one is I would like to create a TBR jar. Now, with that jar, I only want to pull out 1 slip of paper each month and have 1 book that is selected via the TBR jar. So I think that will be a fun way to have me plan ahead while also being in the mood to be a mood reader. It's a nice little combination. The second next step I would like to take is to have other people choose my TBR. So I am so blessed and happy to say that I have BookTube viewers of mine, wonderful BookTubers that I'm bonding and connecting with. And I'm forming this community and relationship with folks that makes me really interested in finding out what would they want me to read. So I think I may be reaching out to you or some BookTubers to ask you to pick 1 to 2 books each month for me, and I will share more about that in the near future. And finally, I definitely need to have fewer books on my TBR, my monthly TBRs. So I think by having one book that is selected via a TBR jar, 1 to 2 books selected by other people, that will leave me room to be a mood reader, okay? So I may just end up sharing about 3 to 4 books each month in my TBR videos, allowing myself about 3 to 4 books as mood reads, because I on average read 7 to 8 books a month. And I think that would be very doable for me, and having someone else choose my books will actually hold me accountable for reading those books as well. So I think it will be fun. What do you think? Do you guys stick to your TBRs? Do you even create TBRs, or are you a mood reader? Let me know by hopping over to the comments below and chatting it up with me there. And also, I would love for you to stick around and check out my December TBR video. Let's see if I end the year strong with this TBR. Let's see how many books on this TBR I end up reading. And until next time, happy reading to you. Bye.